At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field. I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school. Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You have choices and you have options. And I think that is extremely simple. You know, that's where most of the power is in simplicity. I don't think we have to make things more complicated. And I think that's where we can get the anxiety, right? Because we're overthinking something. And really, if we can just say that we're doing the best that we can and we're going to support ourselves through our breath work, that's pretty powerful. But I didn't know that it was actually the breath. I I thought it was the meditation. Like I had
Right.
to go to like a yoga studio or something to get it. Like I didn't at that point I didn't realize that no, it's just the breath. Like if you actually just pay attention to your breath 3 to 5 times per day, you can get this, you can get to this calm and this relaxation.
So,
Yeah, they're just because when you work with the companies, they do have different licenses that you need, right, according to whatever the product is. So for stocks, it would be the Series
7,
7.
yeah.
For like mutual funds is like the Series 63.
Okay.
So it's just a whatever product they want to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Hello, and welcome to the How to Exit podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling. And now a moment for our sponsors. I want to highly recommend you get Acquisition Aficionado magazine. Every month, Acquisition Aficionado magazine brings you tactics for business buying and selling you won't find anywhere else. Learn firsthand from industry leaders who share their success stories, featuring in-depth interviews and stories from leading figures in the business acquisition industry. This multi-platform mobile magazine speaks to acquisition entrepreneurs wherever they are in the journey. And I want you to visit acquisitionaficionado.com today. Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Monica Garcia, and we are going to talk about all things merger and acquisitions. You have a breadth of knowledge from everything merger and acquisitions to, I kind of joked and said a breadth of knowledge because you did a book on breathwork. We'll talk about that, how it intertwines with, mergers and acquisitions and being a high-level executive and why it's important to do breathwork and meditation and that type of stuff, which I'm very keen on. So this is going to be a fun conversation for me. A lot of times we're talking about marketing and stuff. That's where my MBA is. This is just something I'm kind of passionate about. It's helped me out a lot in my life. So this will be a fun conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me onto your podcast, and I expect to have a really fun and informative talk and bring value to your audience.
So, out of all the places you could be in the world, what landed you on a show about buying and selling businesses? Give us a little bit of your origin story, kind of how you came to be who you are now.
Okay. So basically, I am an entrepreneurial, serial entrepreneur. I actually have a background from, gosh, since I was a child. My mother was an entrepreneur. All of her friends were entrepreneurs. So I thought that's what people do, are they're entrepreneurs. They start their businesses. I ended up in finance, and we did also sell a company about 7 years ago. So so I have some experience on how to exit. And I also have a small boutique investment banking firm. Uh, It's called Infinity One, and we buy and sell companies, but that is just launching. So it's in the background
Well, I'd
or
love to
on the side.
learn. We'll talk about all that because all of it sounds intriguing. So, and then So you went through your whole life, being an entrepreneur in the world of finance. Like when you say finance, were you doing bookkeeping or advanced structures or what? I mean,
That is an excellent question. So I didn't realize that I was going to be in finance. I actually, when I was a freshman in high school, I decided I wanted to go to law school. So that was my trajectory. I was going to go to get my degree in English and then get my law degree. But there was a pivot. And so what ended up happening is when I graduated from college, I was working with a staffing agency and they put me in a position at an investment banking firm in San Francisco.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Robertson Stevens, and I ended up in the equity research department, and that was so bizarre for me because I didn't have a finance background. I was an English and rhetoric major trying to get to law school, and so what ended up happening when I went and I worked there, it was a game changer.
oh wow, sounds
Yeah.
interesting. Did you do what were your day-to-day operations there? Were you evaluating capital structures for companies or?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So basically, so in the equity research department,
Mhm.
you actually write first calls for your institutional investors, and then you also work with research analysts, and so you cover companies. So ours space was business to business, and so basically we brought we had 8 to 10 companies that we brought public, and so that would be in our sphere.
Mm.
And so we would just work with them on a regular basis, seeing how they were doing, do they have new products, any competition? And then we would write the first calls and then we would give that information to our institutional investors, which we would say, this is a buy, this is a sell, this is a hold. So basically that's what we did. And we did work with business models for the companies, just looking at all their financials. So obviously the company CEOs give you information. So we need to we need to make sure that it's all correct. And right, you're giving us the right information because we're going to make these suggestions to our institutional investors. And we want to make sure that we're giving them good information.
You got really good at reading company financials, which is really plays a good into what you're doing with your own small boutique investment bank where you're buying and selling companies because you can, at a glance see things that a lot of people who don't have that experience wouldn't notice.
Exactly. Right. Right. So a lot of Excel spreadsheets, a lot of reading different ratios, comparing them to their peers. Definitely, it was amazing. But I'll tell you what, because I had an English and rhetoric background. Although I did understand a lot of what they were talking about because somehow my mother would feed me all of this stuff when I was a kid, right? Since
Mhm.
she was an entrepreneur. Like she was teaching me about marketing, customer service, interest. I mean, so much. And I just mostly didn't understand what she was talking about. But I was going to go to law school. So when I ended up in investment banking, everything just started clicking. It's like something opened and it was like click, click, click. Like everything she was telling me was like, oh, this is what she was talking about.
I bet that was your mom still around, or is your mom still around?
Yeah, she was definitely still around when I got in there,
Yeah.
and she was pretty impressed with it.
So you got to have those conversations that, hey, mom, guess what I did today? Exactly what you told me about when we were 12, right? So
Right.
that's cool.
Right. Yeah, and it's actually really helped me as an entrepreneur as well,
Yeah,
making decisions for the business.
I bet. So one of the things a lot of entrepreneurs they lack, they have strong will, they got strong product. A lot of times a baker's a great baker, but he's not that great of a businessman, right? A lot of people are, they call themselves entrepreneurs, but what they really are is great operators. They have a company, they're getting by because they could produce a great product, but to truly be like a true entrepreneur, I think there's a couple other things that come into play, and one of them is, are you watching your financials? Do you know where your money's at? And that type of stuff. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that you're saying that. And that's actually something that I'm in the middle of right now in terms of our growth, is that that's exactly right. Like maybe somebody's a strategist or their operations or their marketing or their technology. And so in a business, there is a slew,
mhm.
right? So when you're really starting at the really basic beginning, right? You wear the 10 hats, right? As you grow, okay, now you can only wear one hat. And then as you even get better, okay, now 10 people have to wear the same hat that you're wearing. So that's just definitely the growth. And so for me, the way I like to stay relevant
Mhm.
is I like to learn maybe something that I'm not good at, not because I'm actually going to do that job, but I can have a conversation with somebody that is going to do that job. Because I think as we grow as well, that's one of the challenges that that businesses have when they're getting bigger is just being able to communicate what it is that you need to others on your team.
I jokingly call them that developing my BS meter. I need it if I'm going to hire somebody else to do something, even like write code or doing like I'm using AI right now to write code, and they
Nice.
call it no code, right? I don't believe it's no code because if you don't have a true BS meter in software, you'd have a hard time using these tools, right?
Right.
But I
Right.
know enough about it. I've written enough in the past that I can look at it and go, yeah, this isn't right. We need to redo this. And the same goes with any other aspect of business. Sometimes you just need to learn enough about marketing that when you hire a marketing agency, you go, yeah, that's not, I don't believe, there's a gut feel I have that you're not telling me the right story.
Right, right, right. I think I like what you're saying. And so as you call it BS, I call it saving money.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
right.
Right, because the reality, right? If in fact you can actually have that conversation with this person and you can tell like, I don't know if you're really in alignment with what I'm needing here, right? If we don't have any information, then we are going to believe whatever they're telling us. And that could cost us money down the road because maybe we go through one, three, five different people until we get the right one. And if you did a little bit of research and you can have that conversation, then that first one, so that saved you five people. So I definitely I'm always looking at operations and I'm always looking to save money. Like I
Mhm.
don't mind paying somebody a lot more than industry standards, but if that person is going to save me 10 people of doing something, it was a good investment for me.
Yeah. I've found that a lot of times it's also makes sense to have people help me find those people, right? Like when I need a new VA now, I don't go out and do the process myself. It's very time consuming to find the right person. I have a guy, Eric, who's just really good at that. So I give him my job description. He helped me refine it a little bit by asking me questions so he understands it deeply. Then he goes out and looks at 100 resume, interviews 20 people, and I only have to look at the top three he picks, right?
That's
And I
wonderful.
pay him to do it because now I've got three rock stars to choose from. And I didn't have to
Right.
spend the 15, 20 hours he spent to get there. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love what you're saying because I think that's it is finding that team, right?
Mhm.
Finding those people who can help you kind of get through the 1,000 people that are potentially there, right?
Yeah.
And now you just got 3 out of 1,000, like, how much yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then exactly almost what you're needing. You just
Yeah.
have to vet those 3 people.
Yeah. That's what's been working. So far in your story, we've got to the fact you were in San Francisco, you're working for this finance firm, you just graduated college with your English degree, and now you're doing numbers. Where did you go from there? What made you leave that that cushy job. I'm laughing because I know investment banks work your butt off. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, that was what was it really interesting is, first of all, landing in that position when I was an English and rhetoric major, and some of the other, the other employees there had been working their whole lives to try to get this job, and here I am. So that was interesting to just be in that room with those people. So what ended up happening is I did pivot. I said, I'm going to learn finance. I love this stuff. So from there, I just really started embracing finance and just started learning as much as I could. So I started reading investment books. I got my Series 7, my Series 63. I started studying to get my CFA. I went back to get my executive MBA. I did take classes, like would get my financial certificate for program at UC Berkeley. So I definitely just started really deep diving into now starting to learn about Excel spreadsheets and all the different financials for businesses. So that's how I pivoted.
now 63 is where you can raise money for other businesses or for other people. Is that right? So
Yeah, they're just because when you work with the companies, they do have different licenses that you need, right, according to whatever the product is. So for stocks, it would be the Series
7,
7.
yeah.
For like mutual funds is like the Series 63.
Okay.
So it's just a whatever product they want to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Well, I got an offer to go down to Dallas and help raise funds for a guy who bought companies. He would go in and his investment group would go find a really cool thing happening in, say, Boston. And, maybe it was one of the things they did were micro hospitals, kind of a little step in between a emergency room, like a minor emergency center and a hospital, right? They could do a lot of outpatient center and stuff like that. So a little bigger than your normal or little minor emergency center you see on the corner of the road, and not quite as big as a hospital. And he's seen it going on in another state. He raises money and starts bringing them down to Dallas and some other big cities. But that was one of the licenses. Like I knew I had to get. There's like 2 or 3 of the series that I would have to get to go work for him because he does solicit and raise capital for those investments. So I
Right,
thought
right.
63 was one of them. So I didn't know why.
Right. Yeah. So definitely like a fund,
Yeah.
right? So like funds, mutual funds.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Cool. So what was your next venture after you studied finance, you read all the books. What was your next
So so I was in investment banking. I did some little bit of work in institutional investing, which I found very difficult because there's not much going on there. You have these big pension funds, and so we try to just have a 5% return. Nothing bigger, nothing lower. Just stick to your 5%. So that was not very interesting to me. And then I went and I did a little bit of work with financial advisors selling the mutual funds, and that wasn't that interesting as well. So then from there, I went into real estate investing. So retirement, buying a second home as for your portfolio. So I did that for a while, and then I started consulting to entrepreneurs
Mhm.
for, growth. And then we started our company. So we had that company for 16 years before we sold it. So basically that's I spent a really large portion of my time consulting to entrepreneurs. And then that's when I got my MBA, and I had other programs that I would work on, like financing women in tech, and valuation for companies. Yeah, so I just really started doing I think at that time, I really just started doing really deep dives into Excel spreadsheets and, right, and valuing companies.
That's cool. I have a real estate background. For a while there, I owned the Tulsa Real Estate Investors Association in Tulsa,
Nice.
Oklahoma. And then we owned a company that would stop foreclosures and buy and sell foreclosed houses.
Wow.
So a little real estate investment firm, just a few people and lots of deals. We did quite a few transactions. We were probably one of the biggest in the town in that county for foreclosures for a long time. But we trained all the real estate agents and brokers. If you hated short sales, bring them to us. We would negotiate them for you. So,
Nice.
but
Yeah, that's a great, I've heard of that. And I know here in LA, we do have a lot of different types of offerings. Like, I don't know a lot about foreclosure, so I kind of shy away from that. I think I would have to do some more research.
I wouldn't even get into it. Every state is different, and they've made it so difficult. So in 2008, when we first started, we did what was referred to as investor-backed short sales. And by 2017, it was almost impossible to get those done. All the banks had rejected them. The banks wanted as much money as they could out of every deal. There were like 6 banks that wouldn't even talk to us anymore. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, a bunch of them, but just like wouldn't. If they seen our name on an offer, they're like, "Oh, you're an investment group, or we don't do that." And they just wanted them sold to the market to the highest bidder. And so it just became an absolute nightmare. So I sold it. My business partner thought he could straighten it out. I just knew the market had changed on us. So I sold my interest to him and moved on. But that said, I would never get back into the short sales foreclosure business. They've just made so much government red tape over it. It's just so hard to get anything done in that realm. Now, buying them after the foreclosure is another story. Buying blocks of bank, we did this some too. Buying entire what they call blocks of houses from a bank. So banks foreclosed on a dozen houses, and they just got to get them off their books. You can buy 10, 15 at a time from the bank, and then go
Yeah,
fix them all up or sell them off.
right, right. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I would imagine, yeah, different regulations. Was that before or after COVID? Like, how close is
This
that
is
to COVID?
2017 is when we should announce. It was definitely before COVID. And then, I kind of semi-retired trying to figure out what I was going to do next. But when COVID rolled through, that changed some stuff too. So the markets, all businesses are cyclical, including real estate. Everybody will tell you that real estate's, it's pretty steady year round. Like they have cycles. They have boom markets, bust markets, hot markets, cold markets. There are certain times of the year where it's really hard to sell a house. So all businesses have cycles, and you just got to learn the cycles of every business.
Right. I love that you're saying that because I think if you understand that, you
Hmm.
can do really, really well in almost any cycle. So if one's down, then you're at another one that's going up. And yeah, definitely. I think to position yourself that way is really a smart thing to do.
Yeah. That's the beauty of real estate and a lot of other businesses the same way, I'm sure. If you know the cycles, you know what's going on. Like, okay, when there's lots of foreclosures, this is a business you might want to be in. But when the market's really hot, you probably ought to be in this, other business, right? So the difference, like a
Exactly.
lot of my friends that were in this space, and I'm still friends with them, when the market got super hot, they learned to build houses and were building houses, right? Because the market was hot and they were easy to sell. When the market's cold and there's lots of houses on the market, they would flip houses. They take markets, deals that nobody could, they couldn't sell them because only people were buying. When the market's cold like that, they're only buying finished, beautiful homes, right? So all the damaged homes are really discounted. So you can buy a damaged home, make it a beautiful home, and then somebody will buy it. So you just, and all businesses are this way. And, one of the things you got to learn when you're out there evaluating these deals is if it's cyclical, what's something inside of your business or inside of your market that your customers use during down cycles. When you're slow, what are they doing? They're doing something, right?
Right.
As
Right.
humans, especially here in the United States, as Americans, we rarely stop spending money. We
Right.
just stop
No,
spending money on
definitely.
certain things during certain times.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, and I think that is such a wealth building way to look at the economy is right. Something's always happening somewhere. And so I think that's if you're looking for those opportunities, you're going to find them. And I think sometimes people get stuck. They're like, "Oh my gosh, everything's down." And I think you get stuck there, you're stuck. Like, who gets you out of that? Like you really have to know that. Guess what? It's cyclical.
right.
It will be there. It'll hang out there for like a year, 5 years. but it's going to come around. So don't sit there and stare at it. Go do something else.
So out of all this stuff, at some point, you wrote a book on breathwork. So at some point, you picked up that breathwork, meditation, and other stuff helps you. Where did that come out? Where did that come into your life? Where did you stumble across that work?
That's a really, really great question. And you're going to laugh at this. This is a funny story. Okay, so here I am. I'm this kid that is at UC Berkeley and the English department. I actually, when I started my law school, before I went to law school, I thought political science would be great for as my major. And I spoke to some attorneys, and they're like, "Oh, you should do English. English is definitely better than political science, just because you're going to have to write a lot." So I said, "Okay." So I'll have to change that. So then what ended up happening is I had another friend, and my friend had graduated from the school, and they said, "Hey," also with an English major, and they're like, "You should go to Berkeley." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go to Berkeley," not understanding that that's like one of the best departments in the world. So here I go there, and I think for the most part, straight A student, played sports. I thought that like I could handle anything, no worries. But when you get into a place like that, it's like everybody's top, and then everybody gets the best grade. So I remember one of the instructors said, "Hey, some of you guys are going to cry because some of you guys are going to like get C's for the first time in your life." And I was already stressed out to be in like learning, like, oh my gosh, I didn't do my research. It's like crazy. And then to get that, I was like, as just this like kid that like, oh, I get stuff done, blah, blah, blah. And it was just overwhelming. I could not handle it at all. And so I started getting migraine headaches, and that was crazy. Like I don't know if you're familiar with them, but when you get them, it's like first you start seeing a whole bunch of little lights. After the little like spots, the headache comes in, and it's like somebody's just grabbing your brain or your scalp and just like, crushing it. And so then every light just hurts so bad. So you have to kind of go in a dim area where there's a light, and then you just pretty much can't do anything. I mean, you literally feel like nauseous in your body. So I got that. I'm like, "Oh, this is great." So I go to the doctor. The doctor's like, "Oh, okay, this is what happened. Take some medication." And then, of course, I was in the English department, and it was very competitive, and we had to write tons and tons of papers. And so I'm like, okay, I get a letter from my doctor saying, "Sorry, I couldn't turn in the paper because I got a migraine headache," right? So I took the medication. Long story short, didn't work. So I had to go back to my doctor. My doctor sends me to a specialist. I go to the specialist. I'm in the waiting room. There's another college student there, and I'm like, What are you here for?" She's like, "Oh, migraine headaches." And I'm like, "Oh, you get migraine headaches?" And she's like, "Yeah, I need something stronger." She's like, "Yeah, I could be out for a whole week." And I'm like, "What? A whole week?" And I just like grabbed my stuff and I got out of there. I'm like, "There's no way." I'm like, "I'm going to flunk out of school, like if I'm out for a whole week." And then I learned about a meditation class. So I'm like, at this point, I was like, I'll try anything. So I went to the meditation class. And then when I went there, the instructor said, "You guys are going to cry," the lady that was, and we're like, "What the heck is she talking about?" And not, we're like college students, like, we're embarrassed. Like, who wants to cry in front of her? Like, what is she talking about? Long story short, she meant that you were finally going to get to a place of relaxation, that your eyes would get teary, like maybe a little kid that is like tired and they get those like really relaxed kind of tears in their eyes. That's what she was talking about. And that's where I learned my breath work. Like, it was the first time that I literally felt just really relaxed in my whole entire life. It was the most interesting thing. But I didn't know that it was actually the breath. I I thought it was the meditation. Like I had
Right.
to go to like a yoga studio or something to get it. Like I didn't at that point I didn't realize that no, it's just the breath. Like if you actually just pay attention to your breath 3 to 5 times per day, you can get this you can get to this calm and this relaxation.
That's awesome. And so you've been doing that you've been doing that and researching it and being around it for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Oh, so this is what happened after I graduated there.
Mm.
That's when I got into investment banking. So being in that very dynamic environment, right? And then also wanting to go to law school, not really knowing what finance was about. And then around all these kids that were completely competitive, right? Because they've been like working so hard all this time. I was able to use the breath work to just be calm in that environment. Like, I was like, whoa. The migraine headaches were like a blessing, to
Yeah.
learn that tool. That was a great tool to have to
Yeah.
be able to be in that environment.
So I do meditation and some breath work, but in a similar sense, it's to overcome a medical issue, right? I started having anxiety and panic attacks, and I'm thinking the first one, I'm overweight. So when you're overweight and your heart starts hurting, you go to the hospital. So the first time was years ago, and I went to the hospital and like, oh, you're not having a heart. They put me on the EKG machines and test everything, and you're not having a heart attack. And they can say you've never had a heart attack because they can see that with the meters. And they said you're just having a panic attack. And I'm like, the egotistical male. What the hell? I'm having a panic attack. I don't panic over everything. I've raced motorcycles. I've been in the ring. I've been I've done fights. I'm just in a real estate investment firm. I'm not having a panic attack. I was working for another real estate investment firm. He had bought our marketing company, and anyway, you're like, yeah, you are. And I can like your anxiety is going up right now. And also my chest started hurting again, and I was like, oh wow. So you start wanting to give me all these medicines, and a lot of them are heart medicines. Like, why do I need all these heart medicines? Because you just told me I didn't have any heart issues. Well, it'll help you from having these attacks. Well, they all have side effects, and like statins can do things like cause diabetes. I don't want any of that stuff. So I started researching what other ways to calm myself down, and through that I found meditation. So that was one of those. And to this day, I probably do it 2 or 3 times a day. And the
That's
breath work
wonderful.
I need to get more into. I do the box breathing, breathe in for 8, hold for 8, and breathe out and then I do the alternate nasal. But there's so many different ones.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, those completely would be breath work.
yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you do the box breathing or the different breathing. There could be probably like, I don't even know how many, but I know any time that you're just focusing on your breath, whatever type of breathing you're doing, that is definitely intentional, and that definitely relaxes your body and your nervous system. And then it creates a habit. So eventually, you can pull that calm faster by any type. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose, just as long as you do it. You're rewiring your brain. You're
I bet
rewiring your nervous system.
there's a cool thing our brain does, and I bet it really helps with that if you do it on a regular basis. There's a thing in the neural language of programming, they call it anchoring. But a good example is when you walk through the street and you smell a bakery, and all of a sudden your
Yeah.
mind takes you back to grandma's bakery, and like you're in a different,
Yes.
you time travel. You're back in grandma's
Yeah.
kitchen, and it's just like your mind goes there, right? And it's an olfactory. You smelled something and it triggered. That's one of the big ones. Well, your body can do the same thing for anything. It can put itself into mental states. So if you do meditation and or like this breath work stuff on a regular basis, usually within the first 2 or 3 breaths, your body starts to make that a shift way faster after you've done it for a while, because it goes,
Exactly.
oh, this is what we're about to do, right?
Right. Yeah, and so definitely that is exactly why I'm going to do my TEDx talk.
Mm-hmm.
Breath work makes you wealthy. Because think about that. Think about that. If we get anxiety and this is even the most successful elite, Olympian or Navy SEALs or anyone. Everybody uses it. They use the breath work. It is extremely powerful, right? And it's just because we have to be on, we have to be paying attention. That's okay. Do that. But do it through a place of calm, right? So if you breathe, then you're intentional, and then you're actually now you're working with your executive brain, because if you're in the breath and you're in the calm, then you can have your executive brain working. When we're in cortisol and we're in anxiety or anything else that's just really not allowing us to just be relaxed, then we're not in our executive brain. So when we're in our executive brain, we're making great decisions. And so if you're going to make a financial decision, why not be in your executive brain, right? And you can be thoughtful and intentional, and through that, you can just take home 30% better returns. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So there's just amazing things that people can do in breath work too. What comes to mind is Wim Hof, right? The guy who can control his
Yes.
body
Oh my
temperature.
gosh.
He gets, through breath work, just the way he breathes and does his
Yes.
breath work, he can get in ice cold water. And they've actually scientifically put him in the ice baths and stuff, and they could tell. I don't know where they stuck the thermometer, but they could tell his core temperature was stayed the same, right? So his internal organs and everything, he can hold it out 10 or 20 times longer than any other human, where he can stay in ice cold water and stuff like that, and his core temperature doesn't change through his breath work. So it's
I love that
remarkable.
you just brought that up. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. He's actually in my book, by the way,
Is he?
because you're right. You can't talk about breath work and not talk about Wim Hof.
Yeah, he's taken it to the extreme. He really has. So, well, show
Yeah,
us
no,
your book.
definitely.
You have a book. You have a book
Oh
that
yeah.
show us what we're talking about. We keep referring to it, but
So this is it.
well,
It's called The Power of Breath, The Gift of Self-Actualization Through Meditation. And I, like I said, I wrote it for myself because it is really a life changer. And I love that you use already breath work. And like I was saying, most successful people do breath work.
there's so much more to learn inside of this space. It's intriguing me. So thank you for bringing that back up and bringing it out into the world of business, right? Putting that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, even if we think about it, like for our businesses, even for our personal life, if we really think about it, if, for example, maybe something in our business that we're avoiding, we all do this, right? Like, I don't want to deal with that. And sometimes just breathing into it, right? Breathing into like, okay, I got to look at this product, right? Like, I really love this product and I thought it was going to do amazing. And, maybe I have 5 products and that's what was one of my darlings, but it's not working out at all, right? So even using the breath work to like, okay, I'm going to fess up. This is not good. We're going to have to, we're going to have to cut it out. Right. So just even things of this nature, you can actually use the breath work. And I know like for us, when we were going to sell our company, we actually I had to rebrand everything. It took us like 3 years to pull all of ourselves out of the company, create systems and standard operating procedures, and just have the whole thing run on its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was hard because, you build it, so it's like yours and you want to be important in the company. So just breathe through it like, okay, let it go, right? Do you really want to sell it, right? And so if we really wanted to sell it, we really had to pull ourselves out.
So much to be said there. I see companies all the time where they build up the entire company. I'm looking through some right now for a potential new client that I want to bring on. But I'm looking through opportunities, and then one of the biggest problems there are in the space he's in is almost everybody built their company around one or two key people inside of the company. It might have been some famous guy, you call it famous person who lended their fame to the business, or it might have been some famous doctor, or whatever. But if you go to their website, it's all about here's the 3 people that instead of the company itself. And those that makes it so hard to sell because everybody expects those 3 people when they show up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. Yeah. Right. What is the model or the business? And right. And I think another thing that I think about when I think about businesses, it's what is the intention of the founders or what is the intention, even if it's a bigger company, right? What is the intention of the company? Does it want to grow? Does it want to, continue to create these products? Does it need to pivot? Do they want an exit? So I think all of these questions, right? How we grow our companies. Some people just want a smaller company. Some people want to exit. Like, so for example, for us, when we actually started growing. And so when we were going to sell, we didn't want to get caught where we had to sell. We were in a place where, okay, look, we would love to sell. We got it ready to sell, but if it doesn't sell, we can grow it to the next place, which obviously we're going to go through growing pains, etc. But we can still, grow it bigger. And so actually an interesting place to be. That it was precarious, right? Are we actually going to sell it now that we got it ready, or are we going to have to grow it to a next level?
A lot of people don't realize that a company who's ready to sell is really primed and ready to sell. Number one, it's running on its own. The key players, what I mean by that is that the CEO is no longer the key, or the founder, the original owner. If it's running and it's truly ready to sell, he's worked himself out of most of his job, or she has, right? So the company works well with or without them. Now you've got the opportunity as the owner. You've built this company. It's totally ready to sell. It's making money. You can go on vacation for 2 months, come back, and it's making more money than it was when you left. Why would you ever sell that, right? There's this mentality, and I've seen it happen. It's like I refer to it as the used car, mentality. You're like, okay, it's time to trade my car in. So you go down and maybe you want the best trade-in value. So you have your car detailed, your mechanic look it over. So you're going to get the best, trade-in value. And then by the time you're done, you get in your car and you start driving around. You're like, wait a second, it runs better. It smells nice. It's perfectly clean. Do I really need to go take out a car payment when this one's paid free and clear and it's really nice again? And
Right.
same thing happens inside of these businesses. Is if you truly make it ready to sell, if you don't have any other external life reasons why you sell, divorce, disease, something like that, any of these external factors that cause people to sell, if you're just selling because maybe you're burned out, often the burnout goes away when you're not the person that has to do it anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a really, really, really great point that you're making, because that's exactly. I think also when you get it ready to sell, when you really pull yourself out. I love what you just said right now, and I think that's the beauty, because now you really have systems in place. Now you can leave and it's going to run, and then your example that, hey, it's actually running really well now, like just amazing. So yeah, why would you want to sell it at that point? For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And then you go, a lot of times, if you ask a CEO, what part of the business do you really love? There's always one or two things. Maybe they love sales, or if it's the baker, I love trying new recipes, or if it's the auto mechanic, because I love fixing the problems nobody else can fix. Great. Get the company so great to sell that's the only thing you have to ever have to work on. It's the little piece that you love, right?
Yeah.
And you get to
Yeah.
go in there and shine in that realm. But the rest of it, you don't need to touch. It just runs.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's amazing. Like, that right there is like, that's real happiness and that's real living, because at that point you're just like enjoying. And so I think at that point as well you're in flow, right? Because
mhm.
that's what you love. So that's where, like, you're not really working. You're just kind of enjoying yourself.
And then at any given time, if you're operating that way, then it's time. Okay, now it's time I have to sell, or now it's time. I totally do want to do something else. It's ready, right? A lot of people don't get that. If you listen to this show, you definitely get this. We beat it through your head over 300 shows. Uh, it takes 3 to 5 years to get ready to sell a company that has been running for a while and has never put the systems, processes, standard operating procedures, key players in place. All the stuff you need to do. It takes some time.
Yeah, I agree. At least 3 years for sure.
Yeah.
That's what it took us, 3 years. Yeah, to get ready.
Walk
We
us
had to
through.
rebrand.
Now, I
Yeah,
know you
go
can't
ahead.
talk about certain things about the exit and stuff like that. There's always these holdbacks where you got to be careful about what you say. But did you sell to private equity, or did you sell to another operator, or who did you end up selling it to?
Yeah, we sold to a company that has been around for 100 years, and it was actually an interesting situation, because they had just started getting into the market of acquiring, or they revamped it or whatever. They had bought another company and they paid off the founders right away, and the
Mm,
founders took off, and the company did not do well. So that it just kind of went flat. So when they purchased us, part of the acquisition was that we would stay on for 3 years to help them with the transition. I guess they had learned their lesson, which since we had grown it for 16 years, we really cared about our employees. So that was just fine for us because these are people that had
Yeah.
families that, we would do stuff together and stuff. So we were happy with that to do that transition.
Now, you said you're outside of that 3-year commitment now?
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's already been about 7 years from
Okay.
today. Yeah.
What was that like? Because a lot of people have a real hard time. A lot of software engineers and stuff like that, when they sell their company, they were the CEO. They get to be the decision caller, the shot caller.
That's a
and
great
then
question.
then they sell it to somebody else, and they got a boss who's never ran your company before, telling you what to do with your baby. How did that go for you?
That's a great question. So I think what it is, it's kind of like, let's say you were at a restaurant and you're the
Mhm.
chef, right? So they move you to a line item cook. So you're not the chef. So it's fine because you're going to be there for 3 years and you're helping with the transition. So I think when you look at it that way, it's bearable. You're okay. But
Yeah, to
you're
use a lot of breath
100%
work.
correct. Yeah, a lot of breath work. There you go. Exactly. And it was a really nice turnout for us. So we were okay. We were players. We were playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's we were all fine with that.
Okay. Like there's this thing that we do in our family. Like, okay, that was an inside thought. You didn't need to share that with the rest of us, right? Because sometimes there's just thoughts that come out. But that's the same thing. Like, okay, now it's time for some breath work. I can see if you're really, because there's a lot of times where, like, okay, I'm really gonna need to meditate after this one, right?
Right. Yeah,
Right.
no, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just to like get back your nervous system relaxed again.
I always have the rule of thumb is if I have an issue with more than 2 or 3 people in a single day, it's probably me, right?
I
So
love that.
yeah,
I love that.
my first frustration, I'll give that to whoever caused it. The second one, I start thinking, and the third one's like, okay, something's up with me today.
Yeah, the way I like to look at stuff is like I like to look at stuff as control. So I can control myself. I can't control anyone else. So
Right.
at that point, I look at the external world as everybody's trying to do their best. And if somebody is having a hard day, then then that would just be, it's okay. I've had those, but I have other stuff to do. Right. Then I just go do whatever I need to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, that's all self-awareness. It was very powerful.
All right. So I'm so curious about your breathwork stuff. What type of breathwork do you like? Is there certain types that you prefer inside of your book, or?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I love that you're asking me a little bit about my book. So I'll tell you what, when I wrote the book, I had in mind also like meditation or breath work for the rest of us. Because when I started learning about meditation and breath work, I was like, okay, I have to go find the creek or the beautiful tree on the hillside, or like literally I would go searching yoga studios to find that person that knew how to do the breathing. And
Mhm.
so sometimes I wasn't able to recapture but I think maybe after Wim Hof, I think that's when I started saying, like, it's just the breath. Like, I don't need the meditation and this and all of these things. I think that's where I really got the aha moment, which is really fascinating because then I could just get rid of everything else and say, if I focus on my breath, like even if I don't even breathe, but if I just really think about, like, how am I breathing right now? Like, if I just do that, that already has stopped everything. That has already brought me to the present. That has already made me intentional.
I
And
get that.
that's where your power is really.
So let's dive in just a little bit. We've got about 10 minutes left. There's a lot of anxiety when it comes to selling a company. A lot of people back out of the last second because they don't know what they're going to do next. What are some of the techniques that, through your book work and through all the stuff you can help people with, and this breath work and through meditation and stuff, how do they perform better through this exit process and use these tools to help them control that anxiety, to make informed decisions based off of logic and true, I call it true heart emotional stuff, not sporadic, like emotional decisions, but truly where they think they want to be, like down in their heart and soul. What do they
I
want to
love
do
that.
next?
This is a
Um,
great question. Absolutely. So definitely first, before anything else, I think having a conversation with yourself, like what is like the perfect scenario that you want to see in this, right? And then also doing a banta, which is like, you have this threshold, like I'm not going to sell my company for any less than this
mhm,
number. So these things are important. So if you could get these like almost like a contract with yourself, right? So when you start going into this, you will start having a lot of thoughts. People are going to tell you stuff. You're going to get swayed. If you're tired, maybe it's going to be a little bit harder. Any of these things can happen. But if you really have thought about it before and you have committed to yourself something, and then you go into it, and that's where the breath work starts helping then. So now you already have exactly how you've looked at it when you haven't had any of the stress just on your own, right? Maybe a decision tree or a pros and cons, whatever it is that you want to look at in a very neutral state before you start going this into this other realm. So now you have your contract with with yourself. So now when you start going into these other spaces, you got to keep that in your mind. So when you start getting other thoughts, when people start telling you to do this, anything, that's when you start doing the breath work and you stick to what you committed to yourself. And you do not go away from that. You stay strong in that because you thought about this when you were neutral. So
mhm.
do not change it now that, all of these other factors are coming in, all of these other influences, external, right? Even like I said, whether you're tired, maybe you haven't eaten, maybe something happened to one of your family members, all of that stuff, if you do the breath work, you will know the next step to do. So let's say maybe something happened, you're here, you could say, "Excuse me, I need to go handle this," and just let it go take care of something that rather than just kind of feeding into maybe a situation that could just start getting emotionally intense and or anything else, because the reality of it is there's a lot riding here, right? If you're selling a business, there's a lot going on. So kind of give yourself that grace as well that, hey, this is normal. For you to feel this way, this is normal. So just breathe through it. But stay in your executive function. So whatever decisions you're going to make, you're going to be proud. 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're gonna be like, "Yep, I did an amazing job there, and I would do that like that again."
So now I've done some breath work. You do it all the time. I know certain ones that I use. You have your favorites and stuff. For anybody who's listening who's never done this, if they just Google breath work, there's going to be 1,000 things they can see. What would you recommend? As like I know there's box breathing, there's all these different ones. If somebody was going to Google like and look at something on YouTube to do breath work today, what would you recommend them look for to be a good starter point? What technique?
Well, I'm gonna be a little biased. My book is absolutely amazing
Hmm.
because what I do is I do some funny stuff. I say, like, put your breath or meditation on the palm of your hand. Like, just
Hmm.
look at it, watch it, right? So I think the first and foremost is just to, like, what do you think about meditation? What do you think about breath work, right? So just really start to just think about it. Like, I don't know, I've never really thought about it, right? Like, what is that? Like, that's just like, it seems so like useless, right? So whatever, it doesn't matter. So whatever your thought process is, just allow that, right? Because once you start just really like allowing it into your space, then the next steps will just naturally start to happen. And so that's what I do in my book. I do have the box breathing. I have really heavy, deep breathing. So for example, to blow out, maybe you do a four breath in, hold for like 4 seconds, and you breathe out 10 seconds, right? That's not easy. That will take you a long time. Also, anything on, just like on YouTube, You have all of these these different apps. Anything of that sort, anything that you do to just like make a commitment, like maybe for the next year, I'll think about it for the next
Yeah.
year, right? Then the year after that, okay, I'll do a little bit of breath work. Then the year after that, right? So if you can actually create this as a habit, you will definitely transform your life.
So while you were telling that, if anybody was watching the video, you'll see that I actually pulled out my meditation beads, and I wear this all the time. So when I do breath
Nice.
work, a lot of times if I'm really stressed, most meditation bead beads you get of any kind, there's exactly 108 of them on there. So what
Wow.
I'll do if I'm really stressed or I'm starting to have a little bit of a panic attack is I do 108 very deep breaths. So very like kind of box breathing as you breathe in for 8
Love
seconds, you
it.
hold it for so long, and then you breathe out really hard through your mouth.
Yeah.
So in through your nose, out through your mouth, but there's a timing. But I do a complete 108. So I take the
Wow.
beads off, and it takes a while, but
That's
it
awesome.
totally eliminates an anxiety attack or a panic attack for me anyway.
No,
So,
for sure. But
but
that's true medicine. What you're
yeah,
talking about, that's true. And it doesn't cost anything. And it actually is going to help you with so many other parts of your body.
yeah,
So many other things that you could have challenges in your life. It's going to help you. And
yeah,
there's no side effects.
yeah. So
Only
embrace your
only
inner awareness. I wear a meditation necklace
I love
and
that.
a
I love
organic
that.
stone my son bought me from something. But
I
yeah,
love that. That is, it's, and it's interesting. I see people also, they wear like these bracelets, the
yeah,
same exact thing. Exactly. And so when they do start feeling like, okay, I'm not really paying attention, or whoa, I have like 1,000 thoughts in my head, stress, they definitely will grab it and then just start like coming back to the present. And
hmm,
that's another thing that's very interesting. Breath work will never be in the future. Breath work will never be in the past. It's always in the present. So the present is a gift, right? So this is intentional. And this is actually where you have all your power is in the present. In each breath, that you'll never have that again, but that's the present. And that's where you have choices and you have options. And I think that is extremely simple. That's where most of the power is in simplicity. I don't think we have to make things more complicated. And I think that's where we can get the anxiety, right? Because we're overthinking something. And really, if we can just say that we're doing the best that we can and we're going to support ourselves through our breath work, that's pretty powerful.
well, what else would as we're running out of time here, we're getting the last a few minutes and stuff. How does people we can find your book, I'm assuming, on Amazon and that type of
Yes,
location?
Amazon. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And
Monica
then
Garcia Duggal.
and then so Monica Garcia Duggal. I missed your last name earlier. I was just looking at
Oh, that's
the
okay.
form.
Yeah, yeah. It's a long one. Monica Garcia Duggal. Yeah.
Okay. But so you look at that, you find it on Amazon, you get it there. Now you said earlier you're working on another book on finance. Is it for small businesses or what is it for?
Yeah, that's the great question. So, since I have 30 years worth of finance experience, I'm really great at personal finance to business finance to legacy building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've studied a lot of people. I do run a lot of business models on different, different ideas. So I really have to decide what I want to do. But I did want to do something I thought would be really interesting for people. What should we know at different times of our lives? Like, right? Like maybe when you're at this age, this is good to know. At this age, this is good to know. At this age, right? Because I don't think I've seen anything out there. I think I think when we talk about like finance, they're all just a little place in time, right? And so sometimes it's hard for us to think about finance, right? Like, well, that doesn't really affect me now, but maybe it'll affect me down the road. And so sometimes we just avoid finance, and that's one of my things that I would love to do in my lifetime is just to make people really comfortable with finance, really comfortable talking about money, because I think that's part of us taking care of ourselves. And I just, so yeah, I think my finance, I think the first one, I really want to do something of that sort because I've had college students that are engineers like, oh, if you write a book on personal finance, can you please tell me? There are a lot of books out there, but
Hmm.
I think I want to make it really practical. Like, what are some of the challenges this age group would deal with? Like, when you're retired, what are some of the challenges that we would face there? Or at this other place? Like, what would be some of the challenges that it would be great that somebody could just, even if you're not going to find it in my book, it could be a conversation that you can start thinking about.
Okay. Awesome. Now, do you still take on clients? You still work with people?
Yeah, so I am doing offerings for personal finance. So I have 3 tiers. Because I'm doing the podcast, I am offering that now, which I hadn't really offered before. But I'm really interested in helping people, so I think that would be a good way to give like some value to the listeners. And then I will have workshops and events, and those will be for businesses. And those will be more for scaling and exiting or just growing your portfolio. And I just really enjoy that I can do that. I could play in this area and I could play in that area. I really love the subject matter. So
Where will people be able to find out what you're up to?
yeah, so I have my website, www.monicagarciaduggal.com. That's MonicaGarciaduggal.com.
Hmm.
You can also reach me on LinkedIn. And I also have an Instagram account. So those are different ways you can reach me.
Awesome. And then last thing, if somebody can only remember one or two things from today's show, what would you want them to walk away with? What would you want the takeaways to be?
Um, a breath work makes you wealthy. Like really, not just in monetary, but in all parts of your life with your relationships, with your, yourself, with your goals. Breathwork is it's just unfortunately something that people think is not as important as it actually is. And for example, for you use it, right? Like your beans. It would be wonderful for people to really, really think about that when you're going to exit a company, anything with your finances. If you just do like breathe before you do anything, you're going to be in a really better, 30% better financial decision making space.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. We'll wrap it up and call that a show and just hang out for a few seconds afterwards.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.